How does that fit in? Bringing communities together, people within communities.
The core piece of it is transparency.
How do you think that's going to change the game for other people out there who want to become introducers and super connectors?
What you're doing with intro stars is kind of the perfect way.
Hey, this is Mike from Intro Stars, and I'm very excited to bring you a brand new episode of the Super Connectors podcast in New York. And today we've got a very special guest, one of the best community managers, leaders, super connectors we know, Michael. Hey, Michael, great to have you.
Great to be here. Really excited to get a chance to dig in.
So tell us a bit more about what do you think about when people say super connector? What is the kind of image you get into your mind when we use that term?
Well, I think it's so funny because super connector has become such a loaded word. There's so many different ways that we can think about it and sort of approach it. But the way I've always thought about it was this aspect of being a web spinner, being the type of person who brings people together in lots of different ways, in ways that can support them and help them. And I think we live in a world where we're always trying to climb a higher ladder, and I think we should be spinning bigger webs.
And so it's all about helping people, bringing people together. In your day-to-day life, what kind of people do you introduce to each other? What are typical introductions you make?
Most of the time, it really ends up varying on the conversation that I'm having with somebody, right? You never know what the value is that they're actually looking for at that particular point in time. So, for example, I went from being a high school English teacher to becoming a Broadway producer in under 2 years. And a lot of folks would be very interested in Broadway, right? So if somebody's very interested in Broadway, then that connection is going to be amazing to them, right? If I can introduce them to somebody backstage at a Broadway show or something like that. But then you might meet a founder and they're looking for investment. They're looking for sort of some other opportunity. So I think the thing that's so important is for us to actually really listen very, very carefully to what the other person is actually valuing, because I think that is often the challenge when it comes to connecting. Anytime I meet somebody who says, I'd love to meet anybody who, I tell them, I don't know anybody's. I only know somebody's.
That's good. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. I think people are not specific enough with their...
Yes.
And it makes it hard for the introducer to figure out, but also it means they haven't figured out who they actually need to meet.
Exactly.
To be successful. And so it's kind of an exercise for both to be more successful, really. And then in terms of these introductions, is it mostly you going out there to try to find people to build your network, or is people coming to you? Is it a bit of both?
Yeah, so I think in the early stages, what ends up happening is you're out there yourself, right? Like you're out there yourself, you're meeting people, you're connecting people. And then what ends up happening is people start to hear that you've been connecting other people. So they introduce you and they say, hey, you got to meet my friend, right? You got to talk to him. He's going to help you, with this. So I'm at the point now where there is a significant amount of inbound where people will reach out and say, I heard, that you have some ideas or some thoughts on how we could work together or sort of do something. And I also do a lot of hosting. So I've hosted a networking event, it's scavenger hunt all over New York City. I've hosted a conference for connectors. So a lot of those people from those past relationships will sort of circle back and be like, hey, what's going on? What are you up to now? What would you like to do some work with?
And so in terms of the communities you're involved in, you've got your own community. Are you part of lots of other communities? How does that fit in? Bringing communities together, people within communities, to send introductions to each other?
Yeah, so I'm part of a lot of different communities, and I've put together many different versions of communities over the years. I've had communities that have been geared towards just getting together to talk about referrals and really get clear, because I think there's a major difference between an introduction and a referral. I've done a lot of work sort of within that, but also there are lots of other communities that they're around a certain topic. And, a lot of coaches and consultants get together and all those types of things. So I try to be in different communities. And then I think, okay, if I like these conversations, how do I host more of my own communities and my own experiences?
And what is the community you're hosting right now? What are people are bringing together?
Yeah, so the current one that I'm running is called TOP, the Transformational Outreach Party. And a lot of people struggle with just reaching out. So I do a lot of teaching around sort of the psychology behind reaching out, especially cold outreach and things of that nature. And the most important part of it is I make sure that everybody actually does the work while we're there. Because a lot of times somebody's like, I'm going to reach out, but I'm like, okay, let's 8 minutes right now. You do the outreach. And I'm having a lot of fun with that group right now.
Yeah, so that's your background as a teacher, right?
Yeah.
To see people succeed, you want to see them do it.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now, obviously, you've built a big network yourself. You know, lots of people know you, they come to you. And so you want to build this long-term personal brand image, the super connector as people, the one who brings people together.
Sure.
But on the other hand, you need to monetize somehow, sometimes pay your bills, help others. How do you walk that fine line between building trust and relationships and long-term relationships, but also monetizing for yourself and others?
I think it's a great question. I think a lot of people struggle with the aspect of the monetization piece. And I think the core piece of it is transparency, right? So there are going to be individuals who are like, I want to do a deal. I want to do a joint venture. I want to do something where this connection or this relationship is monetized. And then there are others who that's not the way that they're looking at it. That's not the way that they want to approach it. And I think that if you're upfront at the very beginning and you have a conversation of, okay, what is this to you? You know, is this something where we're putting, we're making an intro and there's some sort of deal, in place? Or is this something where we're just kind of getting to know each other and we'll see kind of, what might happen somewhere down the line? I also do find that sometimes you make an intro and it's not that it's been brokered or, it's like, oh, there's a percentage from the intro itself, but somebody comes back to you and says, you know what, I really appreciate the fact that you put me in touch with that person. And I saw that you do this, so I'm going to refer this person to you. I'm going to help you within this way. But I do think the key for so many people when they struggle with the monetization piece comes down to transparency. I think most of the issues that we end up with whenever there is a brokered situation is the fact that it wasn't transparent, is the fact that somebody made an intro, somebody got paid, and they didn't hear about it. It wasn't out front. So I think that that's really the key.
So transparency is great. The problem is some people are a bit shy or nervous to ask upfront about the introduction fee. Say, yeah, I really want to help you, but I need to pay my bills. Like, is there going to be some kind of reward?
Yeah.
And people are a bit nervous or shy to say that
Exactly.
because they are afraid it's going to damage their reputation, right?
Of course.
Even if it's maybe not the case,
Yeah.
but that's what they think. And so how do we change that about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that what you're doing with intro stars is kind of the perfect way because what you can do is you can actually take the pressure off of yourself, right? And you can say, hey, totally up to you if this makes sense, but I do have this platform that I use. And when I make an intro, if it does turn into something, there is a referral fee involved. And if that's not a fit for you, that's also totally fine. But this is a tool that I use. And then you're taking the focus off of yourself. You're not saying, I broker every introduction I have. I do everything. You're saying, here's a tool that I use. And then the person has the choice to basically say, yes, use the tool. I'm happy to do it. All those things. It takes the pressure off of you. You are no longer the person who has to be in control of it and think about what are those percentages? What are those deals? All the legal pieces of like, what is the contract and everything else? I think that's the strength of intro stars is that back end that eliminates the awkward conversation.
That's such a great way to put it. How do you think that's going to change the game for other people out there who want to become introducers and super connectors?
I think a lot of people, unfortunately, end up connection rich and cash poor, where they get to this point where they're making all these intros, they're supporting all these people, they're doing all these things because somebody told them it's going to come back to you. They've built this worshiping of reciprocity, and they end up in this really hard situation because they never ask. They never let people know what it is that they actually need. So for those who are in the early stages of that, being able to say, hey, here's a way that I'm going to test this out. I'm going to see how I like it. I'm going to see how the people I interact with likes it. It gives them that ability to not end up in that hole of I'm making all these intros and nothing's ever working.
Actually, that's why we built Intro Stars just for that, to make it super easy for anyone to start making more introductions and get fairly compensated without awkwardness because it's all transparent, it's all taken care of, and you can refer back to the platform. Absolutely. Love it. So tell me, what are you working on now? Where can people follow you? Where are the coolest projects which are dear to your heart?
Yes, yeah. So I mean, I love solving problems and connecting people. So I'm always coming up with different models. I'm currently in the process of Top is in beta right now, but I'm planning on eventually building it out to more of a membership community. So if folks are interested in learning more, they can go to smallpondenterprises.com. You can learn a little bit about the work I do and, all those fun things. You can always reach out to me on LinkedIn and say hello. I'm always happy to connect and be helpful wherever I can.
Cool. Thank you so much, Michael. Any words of wisdom for young people who want to become super networkers and go out there?
Sure. The thing I always like to say is that The keys to all the doors we need open are in other people's pockets. But most importantly for you, you're sitting there with a pocket full of keys. You have no idea who you can help and how much you can support. And the last thing I'll say, going back to what we were talking about, is that ambiguity is kryptonite to a connector. If you're not nice and specific with somebody, it's going to be very, very hard for them to connect you to the opportunities that you need.
So be transparent, be clear up front. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Michael. Great words of wisdom, great conversation.
Yes.
And I can't wait to make some great connections with you.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Take care.